40 years ago, Footloose was released in theaters, and today we are celebrating it with our 80s Life first ever dinner and a movie. We've got our friends here with us. Let's talk about Footloose. Hey guys, I'm Abby.
And I'm Keith.
Welcome to our 80s Life podcast. We also have with us our friends. I'm going to let them introduce themselves really quickly. Starting over here.
Mark the mixologist.
Susan. I'm Cheryl.
Travis.
All right. Welcome, you guys. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having us.
Y'all, we got 6 microphones. So we
Legit.
figured we might as well put them to use.
We might as well use them, right?
Yes. Okay. But we are so excited to have you guys. So seriously, thank you so much for joining us. This is going to be so much fun. All right. Who remembers seeing Footloose in the actual 80s? Did you guys all see it?
100%.
Absolutely.
So I don't know if I loved it in the 80s because I don't think I really understood it. I mean, I was probably in about 4th grade. So did anybody love it in the theater?
Every girl in my high school loved it.
Every girl because of
That's
Ren.
that's why all the guys went to see this movie.
Okay.
So the guys went because the girls loved it.
Are you saying it's a chick flick?
Yes, the guys would have been at Predator or Raw Deal or some Schwarzenegger movie.
Swamp Thing.
Swamp Thing.
That makes
Swamp Thing.
sense. Okay.
Great reference.
So we literally just watched it. So having seen it in the 80s, did it hit different this time?
I think I liked it better as an adult. I think I didn't relate to it as well in the 80s because none of the guys at my school danced like that. And they didn't dance when they got angry. And
They didn't have an angsty dance rant.
As far as you know.
well, I guess that's true. Maybe I just didn't see it.
So I appreciated just the period piece that it was
Yeah.
as an 80s movie with the perms and the feathered hair, you know, the cars, the Nova that the girls drove.
You gotta love the
beginning was-
Nova.
We have
Yeah,
to talk about
I-
that because Cheryl,
I had
Got
a
very
75
excited about
Chevy Nova.
that was her
That was my
car.
first car, and it had a 350 engine, and
Oh, wow.
I could race boys, you know.
And beat them.
Wow.
Yeah. It just takes you back in time.
Like a time
Lasted-
capsule.
It
Time
really is a
capsule.
time
And
capsule.
Susan had the bug.
I had a
So, I mean,
73 yellow Volkswagen. Mine was a Super Beetle, but it was basically what he drove, only mine didn't have all the rest. It had a better paint job.
I mean, that is
But
so
it was
crazy.
not fast.
We were watching the movie and both of these were like, that was my first car. She's like, that was my first car. That was really fun. My first car was a Chevy Beretta.
I have to say, their cars were much more cooler than yours was.
I know. I agree. I didn't have a classic car. Mine was new at the time, and this guy drove a Honda Prelude.
Oh, that was my
Right?
second car.
Prelude. Oh,
The only thing I had was like the lights that would pop up.
Yep.
yeah, those-
Oh, those are pretty cool.
What color was yours, Keith?
My Firebird did that.
Silver.
Oh, mine too.
You guys have the same car?
I had a blue one.
Had the silver
my
Prelude.
gosh.
Blue Prelude.
Travis, you're the only one that hasn't shared.
Oh, haven't shared.
What did you drive?
Oh, 1979 Cutlass Supreme.
Okay.
Bought from a lady that had a 10-year-old car with 29,000 miles on it. So
Oh my
do the math on that. Pretty good deal.
Pretty sweet.
$3,400.
Just like
Oh,
yeah.
banana yellow.
Done and
You could
done.
just float down the road
Oh, it
in
was
that
awesome.
thing.
Yeah, great shape.
Wow.
Garaged every day of its life. Yeah.
All right, I want to know, did anybody watch the Footloose remake that they did a few years ago?
I haven't.
No interest.
15 minutes of it.
Okay,
And it
like
was awful.
okay, I didn't even do that. I was scared of it. I was like, I'm not even going there because I know I'm just going to be disappointed. And why are they remaking all the good 80s movies? Like, get your own
Because
movies.
they can't come up with any new ideas.
So
Good.
here's what I'm really concerned. We had the writers' strike, and they were all out of work and on strike, and we were terrified. And then they come back to work, and this is what we get.
Yeah.
Remakes.
Remakes.
Yeah.
But they changed the story a little bit. At least that's what I read.
I know, but it's
I know.
they should go back on strike, and let's find people with creativity.
You know, I read that Ariel or Lori Singer,
Mm-hmm.
that played Ariel actually suggested maybe making a remake of where, you know, fast forward to now.
Oh.
And she runs
Part
into,
two.
she's taking care of her dad, Shaw, like as he is on his deathbed or something. And
Yeah.
and then she somehow runs into Ren. But Kevin Bacon, he was like, I just don't think that's going to work out. Why mess with something that's just so great? And
Totally agree.
And leave it where it is in time.
Yeah, that's true.
Just leave it in 1984.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Exactly. Just one and done.
Like, I don't know. I don't have a problem with it when it's the same actors and they're continuing the story. The thing I don't like is like the remaking Footloose or any other movie where it's like they're literally remaking it with new actors. Like, that's the thing that bugs me. What was wrong with the original? It was so great. How are you going to remake it and make it better?
Well, and how are you going to make it in a time of a modern era where dance scene isn't allowed? Like, that's kind of...
It doesn't translate.
I get it in 1984, in 2004,
Right.
2014, not going to be a thing.
Yeah.
Like think about if Gone with the Wind or something like that was, they, had a part 2. Like, it's just, some things need to just be left to the imagination of the viewers.
Yeah.
I'm just stuck. Did you just compare Footloose with Gone with the Wind? That
Classic.
is
It's right up there. It's right up there.
Right there.
It's a classic.
That was a
But
I
nice
love Gone with the
connection
Wind.
there.
It's a classic.
I mean, I get I put
It's one
Swamp
that you
Thing and
just
Predator
can't-
in the same conversation earlier, but I mean,
Footloose
Good
and
one,
Gone
Mark.
with the Wind. Wow.
I know.
Well played. Well
Well
played.
played.
Speaking
Cheryl.
of classics, they remember during the movie when they were doing the book burn, when they were talking about Tom Sawyer's a classic and
Yeah.
Slaughterhouse 5 is not, and you said
yeah, Tom
now
Sawyer's
they'd be
now being
burning
banned
Tom
because
Sawyer.
Yeah.
of the words
We've
in it.
come full circle
Yeah.
in the story. So did it surprise you guys to learn that Footloose was based on a real town in Oklahoma that had banned dancing? Did you guys know that originally, or was that new information?
If I had known it, I think I forgot it.
I didn't know it till recently.
Well, I didn't have Google back then, so we just went to the movie for entertainment. Didn't really know about the backstory.
So in the beginning of the movie or early on, Reverend Moore states that classical music is uplifting and it doesn't confuse people's minds and bodies. What are your thoughts on this theory? Do you guys agree with that statement? Or do you think other music confuses your mind and your body?
I'm kind of confused. No matter what I listen to.
You're confused no matter what?
Well, wasn't there a scene with Vi kind of pushing him on that and questioning him on what does that mean? And like, it just, where does it stop? Like, okay, you're saying music, but like there's other things that can, what
Yeah,
did you say?
but Vi goes on to
She's
date a vampire
confused
later,
people's-
so can we really take anything she said?
Well, she said, I think what she said was when they could look at each other and get excited. They didn't
Right.
need the music
That's
to
right.
help
Right.
them get excited.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so
See, and I thought in that scene when she said, "What are you going to poke their eyes out?" He should have said,
Well, and we all remarked at Ariel, some of her clothes in the movie were pretty risque, like especially her super tight jeans. Like, okay, you're going to ban the dancing and the music, but your daughter goes out in these sort of revealing clothes. Like, where's the limit there?
Now, every high school girl or every high school guy that had a sister that was in high school at the same time understands that those clothes were in the duffel bag, and she said she was going to basketball practice or volleyball practice, and
She changes at school.
changes all the time.
yeah.
All the
Okay.
time. My sister had like 3 different bags of clothes, depending on where she was going and what she was wearing.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, so that's not what she walked out of the house wearing. Okay.
One thing I wanted to say is I felt like Reverend Moore, as much as he had this strong conviction, but he also, I think, in his heart of hearts, knew that we can't be so resolute or so like banning the
Legalistic.
books and like black and white. It's not black and white. It's a very gray kind of thing, and I think Ariel kind of showcases that in her behavior, and it kind of gives him food for thought and pause as to, what am I really doing here?
I think it was when he went to where they were burning the books that he kind of had that realization.
Yeah, I think so. Like an aha moment, like, what are we doing? He says, and he was saying, Satan's not in here, Satan's in here.
Here.
Why don't
Yeah.
you guys go back home and reflect on your own, like, state of affairs? Kind of like, the way Jesus is like, those without sin cast the first stone.
Yeah, I really feel like the burning the books was kind of the transition for Reverend Moore.
Yeah, I thought the best line in that, though, was when he said, who appointed you guys to stand in judgment?
Towards the end of the movie, then, behind the pulpit, he says, if we don't start trusting our children, how will they ever become trustworthy?
Yeah.
Wow. I thought that was a great line. Yeah. It's almost like he was realizing that as he was saying it, like, oh, okay, we have to trust our kids. What did you guys think about that?
Powerful line in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Now, as far as parenting advice.
Yeah.
Well, I think he was also so worried about like setting these examples and having his flock have set these examples. But like at one point do we give our kids autonomy and free reign to kind of like figure it out? And
but that's why I think, 40 years later, we're looking at this movie and they were battling with this, letting the kids grow up, letting them do their thing and break away. I think we can look back now and say where we are today and go, it's out of control. Parents don't parent anymore. I mean, we don't need to go back to lock everybody down, but parents need to not be their kid's best friend. They need to be their parent.
Yeah.
And, I laughed. She lost her job and said that the guy said, you should stay home and be a better parent. Today that doesn't sound that far off now.
Yeah.
She told him to shove it.
Yeah. But isn't that strange how society now, if we go 40 years, how much it's changed?
Yeah.
Well, and it's, we've coddled our kids a lot and they have this entitlement, but that's a
Everybody
whole other
gets
issue.
a trophy.
Well, I think it's interesting because at the beginning I asked you guys about watching Footloose, in the 80s versus now. Well, in the 80s, we would have all been kids. And now we're watching it in hindsight as adults. And like the things that we've all just said were nothing we would have said back then. Like that stuff would have been right over our heads and we would have been like, they wanted to have a dance. Why couldn't they dance? But now it's like all these other things come into play, like, about parenting and freedom with kids and trusting your kids and autonomy. Like that's very interesting that we all caught that as adults watching it back.
And also, when has it ever been successful like the forbidden fruit,
Yes.
Like they're going to go for it. Like don't take this, apple from this tree. Well, they're going to rebel.
Well, and those themes for high school kids, again, going back to that time, we're going to fight for our right to party, right? It's those kind of themes that were somewhat coming around. This was early, right? This was early 80s.
Yeah.
And those themes came along.
So you're going, Twisted Sister, we're not going to take it.
Right, we're not going to take it, right? I mean, you just keep going up the chain, and that's what, in a way, there was part of that rebellion that came from this, and you could see why if you were 18, I don't think any of us were 18 or, we weren't the age of the kids in this movie. We were a little younger, but you can see why they could go like, whatever it was, whatever rebellion you were having, that was a time to bring that out a little bit.
I was junior high, so
that
was
we were
a time
we were younger, but
we were trying to find our identity and figure things out, and
we didn't have a Vietnam War, we didn't have these other bigger things, right? Peaceful time, whatever you want to call it. Interesting that this was the thing that was rebelled against in a way, and it kind of created that for probably other people that maybe didn't have dancing, but it was their way to rebel. Right, or support that rebellion.
All right, so speaking of rebelling and angst, we must talk about Ren's angsty dance sequence.
It was coming. Knew it was coming.
I was just going to say, I saw this at 14 as a freshman, and throughout my high school and college career, every time I got mad after that, I took off into just gymnastics dance rant somewhere in a garage.
Some industrial facility.
I could totally see Mark doing the little flips,
Oh, yeah, all the time.
I also, I started wearing the Levi's 501s.
Okay.
With a T-shirt, with a sweatshirt over it everywhere I went. And
that you might have actually done.
And then luckily in every one of those places you found the parallel bar that you could go swing around.
Just happened to be there.
And it just happened to be in the industrial facility.
Well, the thing I really love though about the angsty dance ad scene there is the fact that in that he finds a way to get his sweatshirt off.
Yes.
And down to the
the wife beater
T-shirt going around there. And I really was kind of disappointed now watching this as an adult and going back and saying, really, to be true high school, he would have taken his entire shirt off. Somewhere there should have been more
all the way down.
Yeah, he would have been dancing shirtless somewhere. and as a father who's raised, high school kids into college, and then I can remember my son's friends coming over and like hopping out of the car and peeling their shirt off for no reason, just other than they were in high school.
That's funny.
Maybe Kevin Bacon didn't have.
He
wasn't
wasn't-
like really buff.
he
and
wasn't
that
built.
Didn't
Yeah.
work out before this movie.
Well, what did you guys think of Ren's character, of Kevin Bacon's character in the movie?
Now or then?
Well, what do you think now? Did you like his character? Was he likable?
I thought it was okay now. Back then at 14, I remember wanting to beat the crap out of him.
Oh, okay. You did not like it
Oh, no,
back
the 14-year-old
then.
boy.
Oh.
Yeah. You wanted to go to the
What?
movie because all the girls were at the movie, and then all
Yeah.
they talked about was how cute Ren was.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So you were jealous.
Well,
No, I totally agree with Mark.
you just sat there thinking, this guy's an idiot.
He's a
He's
schmuck.
not. Back then, guys thought Arnold Schwarzenegger with muscles on top of muscles was cool.
Cool.
Rambo,
Yeah.
things like that. And you get this skinny little guy with his funny little nose and his weird hair that's perfectly styled everywhere he goes, which is amazing. And you just think, I want to beat the crap out of this guy.
Okay.
Which now would be bullying, so it's kind of
That's-
40 years things.
That's
change.
not what I expected you to say. That's,
down with that,
That's
though.
really funny.
Well, I would say I really admire his character because I think that he's comfortable in his own skin and he's not trying to impress anybody or be somebody that he's not. He's pretty much who he is the entire movie. Kind of just this little rebel rouser.
It kind of took the town by storm.
Yeah, he did.
I don't think
One-
he set out to be.
No,
just
not at
wanted to-
all. No.
Quietly.
Yeah.
Well,
Well,
that's
he
why I
saw
asked that
something-
question, though, now or then, right? I mean,
Yeah.
now I agree, yeah. I mean,
Okay.
I love those things now.
okay. But when all the girls
yeah.
in your school are like, oh, Kevin Bacon, then it's like, oh, man, I don't like that guy.
Yeah.
Maybe Mark should have worked on his dance game.
And his
saying.
gymnastics and dance.
I was going to say
And gymnastics.
gymnastics.
Yeah.
He was too busy playing football.
I mean, my version of the angsty dance, there's a lot of somersaults and kind of half-hearted cartwheels going on, so it really didn't look the
angsty
exact
What about
dance.
that leap scene?
the
three
leap.
Oh, the leap where he jumps off the edge of the thing.
That's impressive.
It was. I mean, the angsty dance scene.
Angsty dance.
It is totally ridiculous, but I have to say, I think it was all of our favorites because when that came on, that was the most animated and the most laughter that we got out of this group. So I gotta say, like, we gotta keep the angsty dance scene. At first, I was like, "This is cheesy. They could have cut this whole thing out."
but that's the crux of the movie.
It is.
It's a
That's-
transition
We
of the
love it.
relationship.
True.
Yeah.
Because she shows up,
Yeah.
She shows up at the end of
and
it,
then you're like, oh, what's going to happen here?
and then he's like, she goes, "Do you want to kiss me?" And then he's like, "Maybe
Maybe
later."
later.
Worst line ever.
Yeah.
Maybe
Never
later.
say that.
Guy,
You know, Ren's like going like, yeah, I want to kiss you right
Kevin
now.
has no game.
Right now.
apparently.
Right, where's the game?
Zero game.
Yeah.
Maybe
When
that's
girl-
part of the game. The game I never had.
Well, if a girl
Well-
says, "Do you want to kiss me?" That's the wrong answer.
It is.
The answer is yes.
But I like that she, caught him and he's kind of embarrassed, like, oh, God, geez,
Yeah.
did she see my angsty gymnastics?
Yeah, because she walks in.
Where
at the
in
end-
here did she walk in?
Even there, he's embarrassed, right? Back in '84, he's embarrassed. He's like, oh, she caught me on my little gymnastics rampage.
Dang, I'm busted.
I'm busted.
Let me just take a sip of my beer real quick.
Well, that's the other thing. He had a beer and a cigarette. I don't think they would do that now, but they would have had a lot more than a kissing scene.
Yeah,
Even
no
at that
kidding.
age. I mean, it's like things have.
Flipped.
I think we should have a second podcast thing here where we do this, where all of us have a beer and a cigarette, and then we go try and do angsty dance gymnastics, and just see how we
We'll
handle it.
take a field
I hope
trip.
there's a chiropractor and an orthopedic surgeon on staff for that.
Speaking of one more thing about the dance stuff with Chris Penn, I read when I was just kind of doing a little research before we did this that he didn't know how to dance. And so they incorporated that, him being taught by Kevin Bacon, which I thought it was a great sequence.
Love that. It's probably my favorite part of the movie.
I have to say, I think that's my favorite part. I don't think I paid that much attention to it back then. I think I thought it was sweet and cute. That was probably more my favorite part now.
Yeah, and now, of course, of all the actors in the movie, I think Chris Penn's the only one that we've lost. And so there's kind of this sentiment of like, oh, Willard, he's the sweet character. At first, he comes off all like,
I love that
tough
scene.
guy. I love the part where they first meet.
Yeah.
And then he tells him a joke, and then all of a sudden he's like, okay, like, I'll see you later. And then
And then they're pretty much best friends.
they're buddies after he finds him at lunch and sits with them and everything. I do enjoy that friendship. And it's sort of bittersweet now after Chris has passed away, that like you kind of appreciate that character more just because he died young and he was really a good actor. I don't know what else he was in. I couldn't name any other things. I'm sure he probably had other things he was in, but he was great in that in Footloose.
Sarah Jessica Parker, though,
Oh my gosh.
coaxing him with a chicken. You know, I mean,
Yeah, get over here.
Dangling food.
Sarah Jessica Parker, this was her first movie role. She had had Square Pegs before, but on
And
TV.
1,000 after-school specials.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean,
A lot of commercials and
very,
things.
very.
And Annie on Broadway.
Annie on Broadway. But this was her first movie, and we watched an interview with her, and she really embraced the role, the experience. She said she sent letters to all the actors afterwards and, was just like super like missing them. And she's like, hardly anybody wrote me back. She said she fell madly in love with Chris.
Yeah.
And
That's what I was about to say. Like
they dated after
she
that.
embraced the role, but her and Chris had a special connection.
They did. Yeah, they dated for a little bit, and she had some really nice things to say about him in the interview that we watched.
But think how her career changed. Over
Blew
time.
up.
The movies later in life that
Yeah.
she did. I mean, the
Yeah.
one with Nicolas Cage where they're out in Vegas.
Well, and then Sex in the City.
And then Sex and the City. Yeah,
And
she
among
went
many other
from
things.
This high school, frizzy hair,
Yeah.
side,
Girls Just Want to Have Fun,
Everybody's best
sidekick
also a
to,
great
like, this
movie.
supermodel.
Yeah, she's a good actress. I enjoy her. And her hubby.
Well, it's interesting that she and her husband, and then Kevin Bacon and his wife, have both have
Long time
long marriages.
marriages, and which is unusual for Hollywood.
That's a great point.
Very
Yeah,
unusual.
because
Yeah.
she's been with Matthew Broderick for decades. So yay for them. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yay.
All right. So overall, thumbs up or thumbs down. I mean, be honest. What did you guys think about Footloose?
I'm a
Looking
thumbs
back.
up.
Thumbs up.
Has it
I
stood
mean,
the test
give
of
it 10.
time?
Has it stood the
Thumbs
test
up.
of
And
time?
Yeah.
totally
Yeah.
stands the test of time.
We loved it.
Yeah.
And it's on Netflix right now. I don't know how long it'll be on there, but you can always find movies nowadays. So if you haven't seen it or if you haven't seen it lately, I'd say we would all
Watch it
recommend
again.
do it again.
Or, encouragement I'd give on that movie itself is if, your parents are us and this age and your kids, go watch that if you want to know what it was like in the 80s.
Yes.
talk about
It's like a time
There's
capsule.
a cheesy piece in there, but it's still a snapshot of what
Great
we
point.
lived in.
Our life.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Exactly.
Especially if you grew up in a small town, which I know most of the people at this table did. I didn't. I think I might be the only person at this table that didn't grow up in a small town.
I grew up, Mark and I were in Wichita.
You're in Wichita.
I
I,
mean, that
always
it
think
was-
about it as a small town compared to
Still small
Dallas. But
town,
Yeah,
yeah.
I've been
I
in
mean,
Dallas.
Versus
Wichita's not
Dallas.
that small.
I was
He's
in a
a
Beaumont
small
kind of town.
You're in a small town too.
Real small.
Real small.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're real small.
Boy, I bet that's even more identifiable.
Like, I'm surprised we could dance in high school. That's what
Okay.
I'm saying. I mean, that's how small we were.
Okay.
okay.
We could have been that place.
Well, hey, I went to a small Christian school, so we had
Yeah.
certain things about dancing and rules.
You got to leave room for the Holy Spirit.
Leave room for the Holy Spirit for sure.
We wanted to have prom one year, and the theme song was Talking Heads Burning Down the House, and they said no, we couldn't do it.
Oh, wow.
That was controversial.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Okay.
So I think we went on to Van Halen Dance the Night Away, but
Oh.
Okay. Interesting. Well, you guys, thank you so much for joining us for our 80s Life podcast.
Thanks for having us.
I hope you guys enjoyed this because we are planning to do it again. I hope y'all enjoyed this because we're hoping to do it again and make this a regular deal. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel. And we will see you guys next time. Bye.